1928, inside the heavy, locked walls of Leavenworth Federal Penitentiary, a man sat in silence. A guard, out of curiosity more than compassion, handed him a pencil and some paper. The man took it without a word. Over the next several weeks, he filled page after page with his memories, his thoughts, his crimes, his beliefs. It would become one of the darkest confessions in American history. The man had no desire for pity, no illusions of redemption. He simply wanted the world to know what he had done and why. That man was Carl Panzram, and what he wrote wasn't a cry for help. It was a manifesto of hate. Carl was born in 1891 in rural Minnesota. He was raised on a struggling farm in a time when children were expected to act like adults long before they were ready. His father left the family early on. His mother, burdened and exhausted, had little time or warmth to offer her son. By age 7, Carl was already getting into trouble. Petty thefts, fights, breaking into houses. By age 11, he was drinking. That same year, he was sent to a reform school for what authorities called incorrigible behavior. What happened in that school changed him forever. According to Carl, it was a place not of education, but of punishment, where discipline crossed into cruelty. The goal wasn't to help children, it was to break them. He would later describe the experience as the moment something inside him turned off. He stopped believing in people, stopped trusting anyone, and began to feel something darker take root: resentment, and eventually, hatred. He once wrote, "I was taught how to lie, how to hate, and how to hurt." By his teenage years, he was constantly on the run, jumping trains, stealing whatever he could, getting arrested under fake names, then disappearing before authorities could figure out who he was. He became a drifter, traveling from state to state, always angry, always armed with a chip on his shoulder. But unlike most criminals, Carl wasn't stealing to survive. He stole because he enjoyed it. He broke into homes not just for the money, but for the thrill, and sometimes for revenge. One of his early targets was the home of a former US president. Yes, Carl broke into the home of William Howard Taft, stole money, valuables, and even a pistol. He later used the stolen funds to buy a boat, an actual yacht, which he used to cruise up and down the East Coast. But this boat wasn't for sightseeing. According to Carl, it became a mobile crime scene. He would lure people on board with promises of work or shelter, only for them to vanish without a trace. Many of these disappearances were never connected to him at the time, but later he would describe them in vivid detail in his written confession. Over the years, Carl traveled far beyond the US. He drifted through Mexico, Europe, and Africa, always under different names. In each new place, the pattern repeated: theft, violence, then disappearance. He claimed to have committed crimes in at least a dozen countries. Most were never verified, but the consistency of his stories, the specific locations, the eerie timelines, they all suggest that at the very least, he wasn't fabricating everything. He was arrested numerous times, under dozens of aliases, but every time he was locked up, he found a way to escape. In one instance, he bent the metal bars of his jail cell using just his body weight and brute force. In another, he faked cooperation long enough to steal the keys from a guard. He was like a ghost, appearing in one city, vanishing the next, and with every escape, he seemed to grow bolder, more ruthless, and more committed to his personal mission, to cause as much chaos as possible. Eventually, though, even Carl ran out of luck. In 1928, after being arrested for burglary in Washington, D.C., he was finally identified and sentenced to a long prison term at Leavenworth.